like Jenny, had simply wanted a life in which her boyfriend played no part. She wasn't the predictable child her mother imagined, but a complex young woman who'd gone off in pursuit of her own dream. We might never understand why she'd done it. Possibly she couldn't even explain it herself. But given enough time and a little bit of luck, I would find her living a more or less ordinary life somewhere, just as I'd found my father. I'd concentrated on the practical, tried-and-tested methods of tracking down a missing person. As I munched away at my dinner, my gaze swept along the stuffed bookshelves lining the walls of my office. It was something I often did, admiring certain choice finds, luxuriating in the accumulated knowledge or despairing a little at the useless, dusty weight of all those pages I'd never read again, thinking of all the money I'd spent and wondering how much I'd get if I put them up for sale. Yet my eyes were drawn magnetically to a few particular books, Myths and Legends of the Celtic Race, an impressive volume, more than 80 years old, but with the gold lettering of the title still shining out of the dark green binding like new, and also the tattered black spine of an ancient penguin classic, Early Irish Myths and Sagas. Not far away were several other compilations of Celtic mythology, including Lady Gregory's Gods and Fighting Men, and a thick, scholarly tome by W.Y. Evans Wentz, and the weirdest scientific treatise of all, Robert Kirk's brief yet mind-blowing magnum opus of 1691. Those books and several others grouped nearby were the legacy of my first case. They'd been left to me by a woman who had disappeared in Scotland nearly 10 years ago. That recollection made my heart pound harder and my mouth go dry. It had been years since I'd looked inside any one of them or had any need of them. More recently, they'd become a slight embarrassment to me as I'd grown to doubt my own memories. And yet I'd have to be crazy to ignore the connections between Hugh's description of his last night with Perry and what had happened to me all those years ago in Scotland. I had to clear more books off the library ladder before I could use it to reach the top shelf. Then I blew dust off the books I wanted and carried the stack back to my desk. The Wooing of Aideen was a longer and more complex story than I'd remembered. It fell into 3 separate sections, and there were some important variations to the basic tale. How it ended depended on who was doing the telling, and for what purpose it was being told. Yet certain basic things remained the same. In all the stories, Mither was one of the Tuatha De Danann, immortal magic users, who were traditionally supposed to have ruled Ireland until their overthrow by the human Milesians forced them underground. The other world in which they lived was perceived by the ancient Celts as a realm that could occasionally be visited by humans, although it also had connections to the afterlife. The first part of the story began with Mither's decision to take to wife the most beautiful woman in Ireland, Erin Echrade, the daughter of Elil. He sent his foster son, or half-brother, Angus, to negotiate the bride price and bring her back. However, Mither already had a wife, a powerful sorceress called Fuamnach, and when she saw Aideen invading her space, she turned her into a pool of water. From the pool of water, a worm was formed, which then turned into a red fly. But what a fly! This fly was the size of the head of the handsomest man in the land, and the sound of its voice and the beating of its wings were sweeter than pipes and harps and horns. Its eyes shone like precious stones in the dark, and its color and fragrance could sate hunger and quench thirst in any man. Moreover, a sprinkling of the drops it shed from its wings could cure every sickness and affliction and disease. Mither felt so happy in the fly's presence that he didn't even want another woman. When Fuamnach found out how happy the fly made Mither, she conjured up a storm to blow it out of his palace. The wind blew.